I'm laughing because I don't know if you've noticed, but I don't use the word manifesting a lot or manifestation or things like that because honestly, I'm not a big fan of trends. And I feel like the modern day manifestation movement is incomplete. I feel like it does a big disservice to anybody who picks up the information and just runs with it because it ignores or does not include some very important steps that I feel like we need to take prior to trying to create anything new out of our lives intentionally. Now, we are actually always, always creating our lives. We are always manifesting. We can't not manifest. We can't not create the next moment, the next day. And it's literally about intention, whether or not it's deliberate or whether or not it's what you actually want or desire. Meaning sometimes we manifest the shit out of a really terrible day for ourselves. I feel like a very necessary first step that we need to do is to go back and look at how did we get to this place where we are right now in order to then we see where we want to go and start taking steps towards that. This is actually an act of empowerment because once you can look back at your life and say, well, damn, if I created my life, even if it was things that I didn't like, that's really good news because that means that I actually am a very powerful person in my own life to say, I'm going to write my life. I'm going to write the whole story. I'm going to cast whoever I want to cast into my life, and I get to decide what kind of life I want to experience. Once you know where you want to go, dreaming in a way that, like, literally, what is the best that I can dream up for my life? What is the best that can happen in my life? Because honestly, you deserve that. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm describing what it was like for me. And that's it. That's all I have to offer. Lean a lot into the things that people kind of make fun of when they're like, oh, not to get woo-woo. Like, no, we're going to lean into it here. Like, we're going to get woo-woo. Like, let's have this conversation. Let's have all the conversations. Hi. Look at the new plant. I potted her. You know, I feel like I need to center a little bit. Is this thing on? I hope so. Okay. So I have been wanting to record this episode actually for months. I've actually recorded this episode before, did not make it off the chopping block. And I've been sitting with a lot of this for a while. And I don't think I'm back yet for season 3. We'll just call this another bonus episode. You know, I can't stay away. I do want to set it up with a new camera for season 2. So probably in the next couple weeks here, I'll play with that and then decide, kind of dream up what season 3 will feel like, will look like, who to invite on, and move forward with that. If you're new here, hi, my name is Vanessa, and this is the Let's Get Woo Woo podcast. And I am really excited to record this episode today specifically, but also things that I've been playing with for a while and that I've been wanting to talk to for a long time. The topic of today's episode is going to be creating my life. How do we actually create the life that we desire, that we long for, where do those desires come from? Are they good? And maybe different practical ways, options that we can use to go about that. I'm laughing because I'll probably include this in the title some way, somehow, but I don't know if you've noticed, but I don't use the word manifesting a lot, or manifestation or things like that, because honestly, I'm not a big fan of trends. And I feel like the modern day manifestation movement um, is incomplete. I feel like it does a big disservice to anybody who picks up the information and just runs with it, because it ignores or does not include some very important steps that I feel like we need to take prior to trying to create anything new out of our lives intentionally. Now, also, and this goes hand in hand with what I want to say about that, is that we are actually always, always creating our lives. We are always manifesting. We can't not manifest. We can't not create the next moment, the next day. And it's literally about intention, whether or not it's deliberate or whether or not it's what you actually want or desire. Meaning sometimes we manifest the shit out of a really terrible day for ourselves. And you're just kind of in this funk, in this like crazy loop or cycle that you just can't seem to get out of. And there's momentum behind that, and that's hard to get out of. And what I want to say about a manifestation, there's nothing wrong with manifestation. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm saying that the modern day movement of manifestation completely, most of the time, disregards the fact that actually the lives that we exist in right now, the job that you have, the relationships that you have, the things that you've experienced, like your finances, your mindset, your body, your health, your all of these things. And if it's something that you want to change, that you're not completely happy with the way that it exists right now as it is, there's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine. But I feel like a very necessary first step that we need to do is to, in retrospect, I said that weird, in retrospect, go back and look at how did we get to this place where we are right now, in order to then we see where we want to go and start taking steps towards that. And the thing is that by and large, most of the things that we've experienced in our lives, we've allowed, or we ourselves have perpetuated and grown for ourselves. And a lot of times, those things aren't positive things. A lot of times, we allowed somebody to treat us terribly in a relationship, or a lot of times we, you know, we're a good match for X, Y, or Z, or a lot of times we've created health issues within our bodies through different habits or practices that we do. And this is not anything to like shame myself or anybody else. This is actually an act of empowerment, because once you can look back at your life and say, well, damn, if I created my life, even if even if it was things that I didn't like to experience that, as Abraham Hicks calls it, contrast. Even if it was things that like, well, now I know I don't like that. That's really good news, because that means that I actually am a very powerful person in my own life to say, I'm going to write my life. I'm going to write the whole story. I'm going to cast whoever I want to cast into my life, and I get to decide what kind of life I want to experience. And also, I've been doing that for most of my life. Now, there are things that happen to people that are unspeakable tragedies that I don't know why things happen to people the way that they do. I don't know why things have happened to me in my life the way that I have experienced them. But I can look back honestly at most of my life and say, I can absolutely see what role I played in that situation and how I allowed that. And that's really important because I don't want to experience that ever again. You know, I don't want that ever to happen ever again. And it's a very intentional decision that you have to make to step out of the victim mentality of any of it and say, actually, this is how I allowed this because I didn't value myself. This is how I found myself with this health thing going on because I I didn't take care of myself in these ways. This is how I found myself in this financial crisis because I I allowed myself to really fit into like a scarcity type mindset and all these things. And it can be big things and it can be small things, but it's so important, I feel like, for us individually to take a look back on our own lives and look at all those things that we don't want to experience anymore. We're tired right now of experiencing them and we want to change. What have I done? What habits have I practiced? What ways did I show up, or what lack of work or effort or intention did I hold back in these areas where I contributed to this in my life, or I actually created this for myself in my life? And take note of that. Because once you do that and you take accountability and you say, I'm owning this, I allowed this to happen, I created this, whatever they did, whatever hand anybody else had over your situation, and they showed up this way towards you and they did this towards you, that's fine. Like, that happened. You don't have to take inventory of what other people did. That's true. I'm not saying this is not about forgiveness right now. This is not about any of that. This is about you and how you've managed your life thus far for the purpose of realizing that, damn, I'm a really, really powerful person and I created so many things in my life. And now that I'm aware that I've done that, that my life so far has been exactly what I've created it to be, exactly what I've allowed it to be. That's really great news because now I know where I want to go, and I know not to focus my attention on what I don't want to experience, but focus my attention on what I do want to experience and what I want to create out of my life. Unwaveringly focusing my attention there, where I want to go, instead of what didn't work out, what I don't want to experience, what I hated, what I hate now about my life. Once you know where you want to go, even if you're not there yet, it can feel like there's an ocean of a gap between you and the life that you want to experience. And that feeling and dwelling in that feeling is what keeps you stuck right where you are. It makes you feel defeated. It makes you feel like it's such a daunting task to cross that bridge from here to there. Like, how would I ever? That's not what we're talking about right now. We're not talking about how. There's a time and place for that. This is not that time. When it's time for you to play with the imagination game of dreaming up what your life could be like, what's the best that can happen? Like, literally, I talked about this before, where like I have lots of practice. I have lots of practice subconsciously, even just it's like my first used to be like my first nature to be like, oh, a reward, and be like, what's the worst that can happen? Worst case scenario. Oh my God, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? And it's like, we can't control so much in this world. And a lot of times giving your attention to what you don't want to have happen, you're helping for that thing to happen the way that you don't want it to happen. So I would I would implore you that if you are beginning to dream up your life and creating it and moving towards that, we're not talking about the how right now, but we are talking about dreaming in a way that, like, literally, what is the best that I can dream up for my life? What is the best that can happen in my life? Because honestly, you deserve that. You are a human being living in this time and space. Do you know how crazy and like amazing it is that we get to exist in all of the history of all of this planet, of all human beings? We get to be alive right now in this time and space. I don't know. I just feel like so many people, so many beings, souls would love to have experienced being alive as a human being right now in this time and space. And yet here we are. Like, it's a privilege to be alive right now. Granted, like, yeah, shit is crazy in the world in all the ways, like socially, economically, politically, just energetically. But also, if you pay attention and you notice, like, collectively, what the consciousness of the human being is rising to collectively. And I feel like there's both sides of the spectrum, and they're kind of both going to the opposite ends of the extremes. And I think that's for a purpose as well. But it's just a really amazing time to be alive right now. Never in the history of man has it been like it is now. And even like the cool things that we have access to through technology is just really fun. You know, we get to play with that. And so I think starting from a place of gratitude of like, wow, this is pretty cool that like I get to live in this time and space. I have a life and I get to create my life. And sometimes we're in circumstances that we feel stuck in, that we don't see a way out of. And sometimes hard decisions need to be made in order to really change your life in a way that your soul is calling you to. I had to do that, and it was not easy, and it took a lot, but I knew that I deserved better in my life, and I knew that I was worth me fighting for those changes in my life. And that's nothing that anybody told me. That's just honestly me sitting with myself, my heart, with God, and just being like, and God asked me, like, what do you want? And it was like, it was like pulling teeth, because I just had so much that I had to be convinced of, like, I actually get to dream. Like, I thought this was my life and I was just stuck here. And turns out that doesn't have to be true. Let me look at my notes because I took notes. Okay, so I want to give you an example of what's the best that can happen and how I've been nudged to like program my mind and my heart in this way to be hopeful. You know, it started off as like cautious optimism, and now I call it hopeful. And now actually I call it delusional, of like, I just know it's going to happen. Like, there's no other option but for this to transpire in this way, loosely, like not exactly like this, but like experience this. So when I was pregnant with the twins, and I was about 20 weeks pregnant, and I had just found out that they were twins, because we were going through a midwife, and we were going to do like a, not a home birth, but a birthing center. And so I hadn't had like an ultrasound or anything like that, but I was pretty sure that I was pregnant with twins. And when I went in and they were like, they confirmed that they were twins, in that same visit, they also confirmed that we had what they call twin to twin transfusion syndrome disease, which is a very high risk condition for multiples. I think maybe it's just a twin thing. I don't know. But they were basically like, you need to get surgery immediately. And we flew out to Colorado, and I had surgery the next day. And they did a huge needle in my belly, in my pregnant belly at 20 weeks pregnant, that went from this side to the other side with a laser to disconnect the blood vessels in the placenta that the twins were sharing, in order to essentially give them their own placenta and give them a chance to continue to live in my belly and be born, right? When we came back from that surgery, it was around Christmas time. And I remember we went to the perinatologist, which is a doctor for high risk pregnancies. And he was like, this baby's doing good, but this baby, she had like a heart condition that they had found. And they said she's critical and failing. And when he said that, I wanted to punch him in his mouth. And I was like, do we need to keep coming back to you? Because this is not helpful. Like, you're telling me all these things that you see, and I'm over here sitting with God praying that my babies are going to be molded, completed by God in my womb and be born alive and thriving. I didn't tell him that part. Like, that's the space that I was coming from. I was like, because you're just telling me all these things and it's not helpful. And I don't want to keep coming back here to talk to you about this. And he's like, well, no, you don't have to keep coming back. Just maybe like, I think we did like every few weeks instead of like once or twice a week that we were doing. Because all they would do is check and be like, yeah, it does not look good. And I was like, I don't need you to tell me this. Like, if there's nothing you can do for me and you're just checking and you're saying it doesn't look good, why do I need to keep coming back here? Because even if you found something, you couldn't do anything about it. And so we stopped going as often. We went probably like every, 3 weeks or so. And in that period of time when we stopped going, they had told me that she had a diagnosis of critical pulmonary stenosis, and she had edema in her heart. So she had like fluid in her heart, and that she was going to need heart surgery as soon as she was born, which was probably going to be like a couple months early. She was going to be preemie. And they were like all these high risk doctors and hospitals and like the Phoenix Children's Hospital. And these are the cardiologists that you have to choose from. And we had to like make appointments with cardiologists while I was still pregnant so they could check her heart through echoes and ultrasounds and all these things. And we would go and they would just, reiterate all the same things. And in my mind, my best case scenario was, God, help us to find the best doctors. Help us to find the best cardiologists that will do her surgery and have all the best people and support and nurses and staff in the room when they're born and have the surgery go great and that everything's perfect. And like, this was what I was praying for when I would talk with God. And like, I was praying, I was on bed rest. So like, I was praying a lot. And like, for me, I just close my eyes and it's like a internal thing, or even keep my eyes open outside and just in the backyard or whatever. And I would record prayers and I would listen to them at night in my headphones. And this is what I was asking for. And then one day I was sitting on the couch and I saw the words "fully healed" come up on the TV. I don't even remember what it was, commercial or whatever it was. And then I was like scrolling on my phone. I think it was Instagram. And I saw the words again, "fully healed." And I was like, and those words just were like haunting me, gloriously haunting me, following me around. And I was like, oh my God, like it hadn't even occurred to me. It hadn't even occurred to me to ask God to heal her. I thought, at best, I'm going to ask you to keep her alive and give us the best doctors and all this stuff. And I felt like God was like, ask me to fully heal her. And I was like, okay. And I started praying, asking God to fully heal her. And they were, I was pregnant up until 31 weeks and 3 days, and which 40 days is the full gestational period. considered full term at 36 weeks, especially for twins. So they came about 2 months early. And I gave birth at a hospital in Phoenix that was a level 4 NICU, which is like the highest level of NICUs, that they just specialize in premature births and birth defects and all these things. And the plan was, if she needed the surgery, she was going to be flown by helicopter over to Phoenix Children's Hospital, and the cardiologist would perform the surgery there. And I can't remember if they decided before they were born or after they were born, because I had gone into labor kind of unexpectedly. Like they actually said that you'll probably be about 10 weeks, pregnant after the surgery before you go into labor. But we were still hoping for like a full-term pregnancy. But I gave birth and she did not need surgery. And, in the NICU, they check everything all the time. And they were monitoring her heart, obviously, the entire time. And also knew about like the diagnosis of the condition and all these things. And they were just like, she doesn't need surgery. Like her heart is actually doing what it needs to be doing right now. And they were still developing, obviously, because they were born so early and all these things. And they were born in February. And by the time December came around, I took her to her follow-up visit with the cardiologist at Phoenix Children's Hospital. And they checked her with a EKG, like the little stickers they put on her little body, and they connect the things and they measure. And, then I put her clothes back on and just kind of hung out there with her in the room waiting. And the doctor came back in and gave me a piece of paper, and he was like, she's fine. She's perfectly fine. I don't see why we need to do any more follow-up appointments. Like her heart is just completely functioning the way that it needs to be for her development. Like she's perfectly fine. And I was like, you mean to tell me that she's fully healed? And he goes, yeah, basically. And I go, okay, thank you. And I took the piece of paper and I took my baby and we went to the car and I just cried. Like I was just so grateful. And it was just this moment of like, wow, God. Like it hadn't even occurred to me to ask for, I thought the best case scenario that I could conjure up was, would you supply all these things that we need to deal with this thing? Instead of, God, would you perform a miracle for me? And I don't care what anybody else is saying. I care what I believe you can do. And would you fully heal her? And I just love that story so much, because it's like most of the time I have such like a low view, low just outlook on what I even desire, of like, I don't even know what to ask for. Like I'm here, I can only look up so far. And I think that's why it's so important to dream with God, because I think there's just so much kindness and sweetness there. And like, it's like, actually, like, how about this? How about this? Like, remember how much this dream used to light you up. Remember how much you enjoy doing this. Remember how much you've always wanted to do this or show up this way or whatever it is. And it's like, oh yeah. So like, I don't know. And, everybody has their own thing that they believe in, or a relationship, or whatever it is, their own practices. But I would invite you to sit with your heart and allow your own heart to rise up to the surface, dreams long forgotten, because they're there. And we can be really good at suppressing them and not even remembering that we did so. It's like when you hide something intentionally, you're like hiding it from people, but then either you forget that you hid it or you don't even remember where you put it yourself. I feel like we've done that with our dreams, and it's like, well, take a little scavenger hunt into your heart and just exploratory surgery in your heart, and just like look around and see what's in there. Dream, meditate on it, pray about it, sit with it, think about it, feel it out, and start there. There's this episode on the Robcast, which is Rob Bell's podcast, that's called I think it's like New Year's Eve live at Largo with Elizabeth Gilbert, something like that. I love her. And they're really beautiful. They have a really beautiful friendship. And in it, she's talking about people and them basically manifesting things out of their life, or like giving themselves permission to go do the thing that they want to do, or whatever it is. Create this out of your life. Go on vacation. Go do this. Go do that. Quit your job and live your dream, whatever it is. And there's a part where she says, and I don't remember if she was quoting somebody or not, but she goes, specificity is the language of the universe. And I just love that so much, because it's like when you dream and when you imagine, not only is it important to like feel and embody the experience that you're longing for when you're dreaming and imagining things. Like, that's why we dream, that's why we desire, that's why we long for things, because we think it'll make us feel a specific way. And so embodying that feeling before it happens is a really beautiful way of like inviting that in even faster. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about that. But to be specific about what you want, while still at the same time being flexible with it, because it's like, I'm going to ask with specificity, and I'm going to be open to however it comes to me, and however I pursue it, and however I take inspired action towards it. But like specifically, and I was thinking about this the other day when I was doing like my morning pages journal, and I was like, yeah, don't ask for, and I journaled about it. I don't have it with me, but I was like, don't ask for good friends for my daughters. You know what I mean? Friendships are really important, and they shape the people that we become when we're little a lot of times too. And it's like, be specific. And I was like, okay. So I did like a whole little paragraph blurb of like, may my daughters exist fully as themselves, fully embodied in their own individual ways, and secure in their own self-validation in who God created them to be. And may they align with people and friendships that cultivate between themselves, between each other, respect and kindness and generosity and reciprocity, and a beautiful alignment of energy. And may they enjoy moments together and create beautiful memories, and support each other and encourage each other and celebrate one another. And may we each cultivate these types of friendships with people and build beautiful community that we can engage with, and where there's love and beautiful memories. And it was like, I could pray for, I hope my daughters have great friendships. But to be more specific about how they, first of all, how they show up to a friendship in their own selves whole, and then what types of qualities that the friendships have in which they interact, and just what that does to build community, and how it can create memories and all these things, and support and celebrating one another. Like, those types of specific details matter to what you, not just what you draw in, but now you just know what you're looking for. Like, because I took the time to say in detail, this is what I want to experience, or this is what I would like for my daughters to experience. words are so powerful. Like, if there's magic anywhere, I think it's in words of like, I don't know, like it means a lot. Like speaking things into existence is really big because like I don't even know, like just words are just so powerful. I think it's the most powerful tool, definitely the most underrated powerful tool that we have for ourselves, especially in creating our lives. And most of the time we use the word against ourselves. I really love the Four Agreements. The Four Agreements by Don Miguel. I can't think of his last name right now. Sorry. But one of the four agreements is be impeccable with your word. And he talks about how a lot of times we use the words against ourselves and against others. Like just, it's reckless, you know? And even before that, I always knew that my word was really important. But once I read that book, this was probably in like 2000, like 2010, I think, maybe 2011 or 12, something like that. And I just was like, yeah, he's absolutely right. Like, our word is so powerful. We have to be so intentional about the things that we say, how we speak to ourselves, how we speak about ourselves or the things that we are experiencing, the things that we want to experience, how we speak to our children, how we speak about our children, like prayer, guided meditations, affirmations in some ways. Like, it's just so powerful. It's just so powerful. And most of the time when we're speaking negatively, we don't have to remind ourselves to embody that emotion because the emotion is kind of what is controlling us, and the words come out of that. But when we're trying to create something that doesn't exist yet, we're creating something out of nothing. We're trying to dream up our life and create it. We have to allow ourselves to imagine and sit in and embody the emotion of it, and speak it, whether it's journaling or scripting or affirmations, or somehow words have to be involved. Write it down or imagine it, like a visual imagination of it, whatever it is. But like, that specificity really matters because words are really powerful. And I have found that to be so important when I went into the recesses of my own heart and was like, what do I want? What do I want? And for me, like, because I love to sit in there, is like also going a step further. And why do I want that? You know, what would that allow me to feel? And what is it about that feeling that I desire? You know, because sometimes it's vanity. Sometimes it's like something that is, I'm desiring something that is, for what purpose? Shallow. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but it's like, find the deeper purpose. Because if it's something where like it is vanity and I'm searching for that outside of myself, let me hold myself in a moment of like self validation and grounding myself in my own wholeness and finding my identity in the one who created me and coming from that place. And it's like, now from this space of like feeling so whole, looking at that again, looking at desire and saying, what about that desire do I still long for? And really getting down to like the actual core of what that desire is, because sometimes that'll change what the external thing looks like that I'm reaching for, you know. So something that I makes me laugh, that it's like, this podcast is called Let's Get Woo Woo. I believe in so many different things that people might consider magic or like just kind of out there, right? Um And like I don't discriminate. Like I, even when I was Christian, like I believed in a lot of this stuff. I never was like, oh, that's not true. I was like, that's really interesting, like let me look into that. And so I spend a lot of time in the unseen realms. I'm really comfortable in like the ethereal, spiritual. Thank you, Pisces moon. Like it's just it's my home, and a lot of times I feel more comfortable there than I do here in this real world. Um, Although I do have a Virgo sun, so like I'm also at the same time can be really grounded and practical. So it's never a dull moment here. But and maybe that's why I struggle with this. But like the things that I believe about life and how it's just so beautiful. And I even said this before, like my favorite quote is, there are two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle, and the other is as though everything is a miracle. Einstein said those words. You know, he's a very smart man. I would even say wise. And that's absolutely true. And the thing is, like, I believe so much about energy and love even, and even frequency. Like literally there's, our cells are vibrating, and they can vibrate quickly or they can vibrate not as fast. And the higher they vibrate, like the higher vibration, like just all of these things, you know, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, so many things, so many things. Um, and while I don't call it manifestation, I absolutely believe in a lot of the concepts of it, of like, especially how Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about it, of like fully embodying the feeling, imagining what it's going to be like, and then just watch as the universe rises up to conspire in your favor. Shout out The Alchemist. When you just fully believe, like you're just fully, I am all in here on this thing, you know. For me, I do believe, and I am in on this thing, but also my mind gets pulled back into the doubt of it sometimes. And it's like, well, let me just do it this way here. And let me just tweak this a little bit and help this out in this way. Now, I'm not saying that we just sit there and, you know, don't do anything, especially for somebody like me who I love to create. I love to make moves, but I've learned that it has to be through inspired action for me, where it will actually be going, taking that it will actually be making steps that contribute towards my goal that I want to experience. And I think the thing that that I've told myself is like, okay, Vanessa, you need to pick one. You need to pick one. Either you're living your life like you're going to make shit happen for yourself 100% of the time, and you don't need supernatural help. You don't need like a prayer, or you don't need any of this stuff. And you make your life happen. You create it and you hustle through life. People can do that. You can do that in this 3D reality, in this realm, this physical realm. You can make shit happen. Absolutely. People do it all the time. Absolutely. That's very possible. I can do that. However, I actually believe in the magic of energy and drawing things and people that I want to experience, attracting them to my life. Literally, I actually believe that like sitting here, like doing a meditation and embodying like what I want to experience will create some sort of serendipitous experience in the near future to align me to whatever it is. I actually believe that. I actually believe in that kind of magic. I don't think that I don't get to take action towards it, but I believe that my intuition and spirit guides me where to go and what to do, and that I can listen to that. And I just feel like two hands there's a song called Two Hands Doing the Same Thing, is a Christian song. If I had two hands doing the same thing. No, I don't remember it. And the idea was that I have one hand that pushes you away and one hand that pulls you near. But if I had two hands doing the same thing, like how much further could I go? How much faster could I arrive here? And so I'm like, just pick one and choose it. You can't pick wrong. Like you can either, they're two completely legitimate options. Either make it happen or work with the magic of what you actually believe and you say you believe. And it's like, okay. And so I think I've really settled into that in this last year of like, especially with this podcast, talking through a lot of the things of getting clear on what I do believe, how I believe energy works and what it does, and prayer and like meditations and all these things, and the law of assumption. And I absolutely believe in things like that, quantum mechanics, like all these things. And it's like, well, go towards that full force. Use both of your hands, both of your everything, of your intentions. Put it here in this basket and create your life. And you believing what you believe, this is going to work. Like, just watch. I just think it's so funny to like watch myself and be like, okay, when you're done doing that, let me know and we can go do this other thing. Just let me know. Because sometimes I be acting like I don't know who I am. I act like I don't know that God is for me. God is unwaveringly with me and supporting me. Like, it's funny too, like getting into like more spiritual things, especially after I wasn't like a practicing Christian anymore. I remember hearing different people talk about like angels and spirits and guides and like ancestors and all these things. And I remember I messaged somebody once and I was like, I don't understand why people talk to or like engage with all these different entities, because I had such a personal and deep relationship with God. I was just like, why would I ask an angel for help when I'm already talking with God? And she never replied, but it made me sit with the question with myself of like, And now that I have, I would say, more engagement with like other spiritual things like angels, and I incorporate that as a part of my prayer when I talk with God, of like, God, send your angels and your archangels to crowd around us constantly, clearing the energy, filling us up with your golden, sparkly white light and your unconditional love. That's part of my prayers that I do every day with the girls. And I don't know, I didn't get it. And now it just like we're swimming in it. We're swimming in an unseen spiritual world constantly. And angels are there. I don't know what the exact purpose of angels are. I'm not going to pretend like I do, but also they're there to help us. And from what I've heard a lot is that you have to ask. You have to ask for help, or otherwise they can't necessarily interfere unless it's like some crazy life or death situation sometimes. But like, I absolutely believe in angels, that I'm divinely protected by God, by angels, by even my ancestors. And like, the way that I just know that I am protected and safe no matter what I'm doing, no matter where I am, no matter who I'm with, is stupid. Like, I just know. And it's not, I feel like it's not naivete. Honestly, I feel like I just know. God is with me. God walks before me, beside me, behind me, above me, below me. God's spirit, I'm enveloped in God's spirit. God's angels are around me because I've asked for God to send his angels to be around me constantly and my daughters. Like, and even before, like, I don't know, I've always talked to God and I've always asked for God's protection and favor and love. And like, not to say that like I've lived life unscathed, but like I just don't have fear where a lot of other people would have fear. And I'm just never alone. Like, I just know that I'm never alone and I can always ask for help and protection. And I believe most of that is very supernatural and miraculous. And like, I don't know, I'm not afraid of death. I think it's a big thing of it too. Like, I don't see it as an ending. I see it as it's a continuance of our spirit or our soul or whatever part of it that it is that continues on eternally. But like, it doesn't scare me. And I just know that no matter what, I'm always okay. I'm always good. Even in death, even in death, I'm good, you know? And I don't know, I think there's just something about when you're somebody who like nothing really scares you and you even confronted like the smaller things in life that used to scare me, like confrontational conversations or like things like that. But there's like just this beautiful trust that I have, and I just know God is working everything out in my favor, no matter what it is, no matter what it feels like, no matter what it looks like. These are words that I heard directly from God to me. Nothing is wasted. In the depth of my despair, in a specific season of life, he said, nothing is wasted. And it wasn't like, let me fix this for you. It was like, I know you're hurting. I know this sucks. Well, let me just promise you and remind you that nothing, no part of this will be wasted. And you'll see that. And so I just live there no matter what's going on, especially in the hard times. I'm just like, I just know that even if it feels terrible, I know that this is for my greatest good. Like, I just have this unwavering trust in God's goodness towards me. And it's within that trust and because of that trust that I'm able to really relinquish myself the control and really settle into this beautiful like surrender from which comes like this peace, this feeling of safety, this like overwhelming gratitude. Like the way that like I just get emotional about little things, especially right now in this fast where I'm just like in this bubble of presence. Like, I don't even remember, like the other day I was doing something and I was just like started crying. I was talking to God. I was like, thank you so much. Like, this is so beautiful. This is so beautiful that I get to experience this right now. Thank you for you, God. Like, thank you for this experience. Like, how lucky am I? How privileged am I that I get to experience this, you know? And it's out of that same trust that I'm invited to, like I said, look back. I feel like I have so much stuck grief in me because for almost all of my life up until recently, I didn't allow myself to cry. I was raised in a home where like we didn't cry or we got made fun of, you know? So like I learned really well how to suppress my tears and my emotions and so much of that was stuck in my body. I have a Pisces moon. Your moon kind of dictates your emotions, right? And Pisces is a water sign. So like really, really, I naturally in my natural state, I'm probably someone who has the urge to cry almost every day, whether it's because I have so much gratitude or there's something sad or whatever it is, or just because I just want to let a good cry out. Have you ever seen Elemental, you know, Wade? Like, that's probably me in my natural state. However, for most of my life, I've suppressed it for so long, so deep below that like I have to hold space for myself in a really safe and like alone environment in order to feel comfortable enough to cry. And that trust that I have in God, when I sit with myself and hold space for myself in that way, it really reinforces the promise that I made to myself actually at the beginning of this podcast, probably like episode 1 or 2, where I was like, I know that I betrayed myself and I abandoned myself in these relationships before, and how I let them treat me and how I stayed there and all this stuff. Like it was bad in that marriage and all this stuff. But like I can be trusted, and I'm going to prove that I can be trusted. And like now it's like, showing up for myself in different ways and actually proving that, like, you know what, I actually can be trusted. I know what I need, and I'm doing that for myself. I'm holding space for myself, and I'm not just telling myself that I'm safe, but I'm actually proving that I will not betray myself. I will not abandon myself in my own needs. I will be loyal to myself before I'm loyal to somebody else. And that just creates this really beautiful space and holding for myself of like ease and surrender within my own existence of my own life, to say, I got my own back. I really do. And that feels good to like have specific scenarios where like the tension comes up against it, and it's like, well, here's your chance to prove yourself. And it's like, okay, here we are. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for those opportunities, and also for like just the hard situations that I had to experience in order to know that, oh shit, I need to choose myself and make that promise to myself. And now being somebody who like, this is what I'm doing. That feels good. Like now I'm just like, there's nothing to stop me. I don't care what people think about me. Like it's fun. I feel free. Like I feel so free and liberated. And to me, like that's just the most delicious way to live my life, because I fought for that for a long time, of liberating myself from what other people would think, and opinions, and like people's energy and all this stuff. And I'm like, it just feels so good to exist fully as myself in my life, not being afraid of knowing that like my life is so beautiful right now as it is. My life is so beautiful. I love my energy. I love who I am. I love my own company, maybe way too much. I was thinking about this other day of like how I say like I want community and I want like a partnership and a relationship, and then I was like by myself. I've been a lot by myself, especially in this fast, and I was like, do I want community? Because like right now I wouldn't even know what to do with a whole thing of community, of like, somebody inviting me out on my free time and just me being like, not really. I don't really want to go. Um, yeah, like there's one person who I enjoy spending time with, and he knows who he is. And even then, like, the celibacy part of this fast has been um a little there, a little not. And that's okay. Like it's not perfect. But other than that, like I just feel so I don't I love being with myself so much right now. I don't know if this is temporary. I don't know if I'm gonna grow out of this. But I was like, because in order for you to have community and have a relationship, like I feel like I need to make space for that in my life. And part of me does want it, but also it also requires like effort and me making space for that in my life. And I'm just like, I don't think I'm ready for that. And I think that's okay. I think this is a year of devotion for me to myself, for a reason of like, I actually get to take my time. I get to take the time that is mine right now and let it just be that, and not have to make it about anybody else. And it's just so like weird for me to be so like just not pouring myself out for other people. But like, it feels good. And I take good care of, like, I'm just, when I love somebody, like, I take good care of people. And so to have all that energy and intention and focus back onto me for myself, like, damn, like, okay, it feels good to be loved by me. It's fun. I think the last thing that I want to say about this creating my life as I desire it is that I talked about this on my last podcast too, is that I actually believe that this life that I'm dreaming up and all these vision boards and all these imagining and dreaming with God and all these things, and it's like I have big dreams, like big out there. And yet I don't feel like it's too much. I don't feel like it's too big. I don't feel like any of that. I feel like it's my birthright. I feel like I've actually, if I'm being honest with myself, I've always known that I'm meant to live this exact life that I am creating for myself. And I've always known that I was going to be somebody who I have financial abundance and I can live freely in my life with time and energy and doing whatever I love to do. And most of that is around creating. And call it delusional, call it whatever you want to call it, but like, this is what I actually believe. And I actually believe that I don't have a choice in the matter. Like, meaning, even if I didn't want this incredible, beautiful life that I want, but even if I didn't want it, if I was like, I'm good, never mind, I actually believe that my life is going to sit me down and be like, nope, you're living this life. You're going to enjoy it too. Like, I don't really have a choice. It's my birthright. It's my destiny. And not just from my own heart and my own workings, but also even like my ancestors. I feel like they have a lot to do with supporting me and moving things along and supernatural help and all these things. And it feels really good to be on this side of that, of like, I feel chosen in a way. I feel super privileged and overwhelmingly grateful to have this life, to exist in my own being and like my state of awareness as the person that I am, as the mother that I am with my daughters, as myself, for myself. And I'll be honest with you, it feels really good to not have like a romantic relationship or partner at the center of my life, but also to not really be needing that anytime soon. Like, it is something that I long for and I want to experience eventually. But if it came right now, I would be like, I'm not ready. You need to wait. You need to wait, because I'm in the middle of something and it feels way too good to, I'm not there right now. This ain't that right now. So I don't know. I'm just really in love with my life. Like, I've fallen so deeply in love with myself in a way where it's just like, I just want to take care of my body and my heart and my desires and my time and my experience and my solitude, and like just being so fulfilled and content, especially in the moments where I'm sharing in heart space with God. It just feels so good. Like, it feels so good to be in my life. So I just love it here. I love it here so much. And it's a really fun and great space to create out of, which is probably why I can't stay away from here. I'll have to start season 3 pretty soon here, because I'm just gonna have like a bonus episode every week. Anyways, I got some new fun toys in the mail. This is actually a new mic that I got. So now I have 2 mics so I can do my podcast with guests. I'm really excited for that. I got a MIDI controller, a mini keyboard, M Audio, which I'm really excited about. More to come on that. But I did like a review on some of the things that I've gotten here recently today, and I'll probably post that on something. Anyways, thank you so much for being here. Have a good day. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm describing what it was like for me. And that's it. That's all I have to offer. lean a lot into the things that people kind of make fun of when they're like, oh, not to get woo-woo. Like, no, we're going to lean into it here. Like, we're going to get woo-woo. Like, let's have this conversation. Let's have all the conversations.